Hello and welcome to the Tiling to Internal Walls with Large Format Tiles CPD from BAL. My name's Allan, Garland. I'm the Specifications Manager for the Southwest. And as with our other CPDs that are pre-recorded, we can't take any questions during the seminar, but please do feel free to get in touch on the details using the details on this slide should you have any queries or would like to discuss any live projects or perhaps any future projects. BAL has a proud history. We were founded in 1962 by the tile manufacturers that constituted the British Ceramic Tile Council. As tiles materials were changing and there were no specific products or guidance for fitting tiles, the industry was starting to experience installation failures. To ensure tiles could be used successfully and grow as an industry in the UK, the council formed a specialist materials company to develop high quality products for tiling installations and provide a comprehensive technical advisory service for the industry. BAL was formed for the industry, by the industry, and a value intrinsic to all we do today. Here at BAL, we have implemented a number of strategies in raw material use, waste reduction and energy saving, which has produced tangible results and led to the company being recognised as one of the top 6 UK manufacturing firms across all industries for sustainability and environmental management. We are committed to ensuring that environmental management goes beyond the recognised standard and continually improving our performance and ensuring that best practice methods are adopted at all times. We recognise the need to raise the bar, to continually review environmental performance and identify opportunities for improvement. BAL ensures that this environmental ethos is carried out throughout the product life cycle, from material sourcing and product manufacture to consumer use. We strive to ensure that our use of raw materials is sustainable for the long term. The review and revision of its purchasing procedures has resulted in 14% of all raw materials now being sourced from recycled materials, with a target to increase this to 20% by 2020. The company has also worked hard to address the environmental impacts associated with the transportation of raw materials and finished products, with 65% of raw material suppliers being UK based. Raw material use has also been reduced due to the launch of new high-yield ranges providing 33 to 60% additional coverage, ensuring that our raw material use is efficient, responsible and sustainable. Improvements in packaging have also led to 1/6 of all products containing 10% recycled material, while 86% of all packaging comes from UK suppliers. The implementation of energy reduction initiatives and investments has resulted in total energy saving of 147,000 kilowatts, or 6.4%, an estimated saving of 449,200 kilowatts per annum. Additionally, BAL still continues its partnership with Cool Earth, Europe's fastest growing environmental charity, to help fund the protection of rainforests in South America. So, the key topics for today will be the introduction of large format tiles and panels, some design considerations and best practice, health and safety considerations. Obviously with larger tiles and panels, how do we move those around without injuring ourselves? Adhesives and grouts and selections of those, joint widths and movement joints, and then a quick summary. An introduction to large format tiles and panels. Over the last few years, the popularity of larger format ceramic tiles, panels and thin tiles have brought a number of challenges for the building and tiling contractors, as well as tile adhesive manufacturers. Recent updates in the British standards reflect that changes in the variety of tile size and formats are available. Tile can now be broadly categorised into the following formats: ceramic tiles, large format tiles, ceramic panels, and thin ceramic tiles or panels. The definition of tile types in terms of their dimensions as described on this slide can be found in the British standards. The British Standard 5385 Part 1 2018 wall and floor tiling deals with the design and installation of ceramic and natural stone and mosaic wall tiling in normal internal conditions. Then there's the BS 5385 Part 3 2014 wall and floor tiling, which deals with the design and installation of internal and external ceramic and mosaic floor tiling in normal conditions. In the case for international standards, 2015 saw the introduction of 2 new technical reports. For the installation of large format tiles, we have PDISO TR 17870-1 and then the installation of thin ceramic wall and floor tiles and panels, we have PD ISO-TR 17870-2. The next set of slides looks at some important design considerations when installing larger format tiles and panels on the internal and external walls. We will now look at some important background characteristics which should be considered prior to selecting larger format tiles, ceramic panels and thin panels as a suitable wall and floor finish. This table highlights the important physical and mechanical requirements for the background which needs to be considered prior to selection of the type of thin ceramic tiles and panel finishes. This also takes into consideration the types of environmental demands which may be placed upon the tile and finish. For example, the background should be dry, dimensionally stable, rigid and free from any contamination. We should also select suitable time schedules and procedures to allow those background materials to cure sufficiently enough so that the majority of shrinkage would have occurred prior to the installation of ceramic tiles or panels. The effect of long-term shrinkage on thin or large format ceramic panels could be a lot more severe than for smaller format ceramic tiles. We will now look at surface regularity. For wall tiling, the British Standard 5385 Part 1 2018 for internal wall tiling advises that the surface should be true such that when checked with a 2 metre straight edge with 3 mm thick feet at each end, the straight edge should not be obstructed by the background and no gap should be greater than 6 mm. This diagram is a simple representation of this. However, due to permissible manufacturing tolerances, the large format tiles and panels could have surface flatness irregularities of their own. This makes it difficult for the installer to create a flat tiled finish, and therefore the background may need to be constructed to tighter tolerances to allow for the irregularities in the tile panels themselves. As with wall tiling, the British standard for surface regularity on floors is also 3 mm or SR1. Where tiles are bedded in adhesive, the floor should conform to SR1. If the surface regularity of the subfloor is inadequate, it should be corrected prior to tiling work commencing, i.e. we should be using a smoothing compound to create a flat surface to tile to. Now, the same goes with wall tiling as floor tiling. If we have a large format panel or tile, there may be surface irregularities within the tile itself, so a greater degree of accuracy in the substrate is needed to create a flat finish in the tiles without lipping at the tile joints. Important factors to consider would be the weight of the tile versus the background. A 10 mm thick natural stone is equivalent to 30 kilos per square metre. 9 mm thick porcelain tile is equivalent to approximately 18 kilos per square metre. The weight of the adhesive and grout is also estimated at 45 kilos per square metre for a 3 mm solid bed, and that must be included in the total weight. Now, as you can see, a 9 mm thick porcelain tile at 18 kilos per square metre plus 4 to 5 kilos of adhesive and grout would be 22 to 23 kilos per square metre, which wouldn't be permissible when tiling to plaster, but you could on every other background. This needs to be considered when specifying. Sheets and board systems should be mechanically fixed to suitable stud-work, battens and other supporting framework. They should also provide a rigid surface and have minimal deflection under load. The recommendations given in the British Standards state that sheets of boards which are likely to be subjected to movement from changes in moisture content such as wood-based boards, i.e. plywood, should not be used for direct fixing of wall tiles. Consideration must be given to taping joints and weak points on the boards themselves, and it might be wise to embed that within tile adhesive. Seek the manufacturer's advice for the recommended installation method and suitability of their board for a particular application, i.e. external tiling or wet rooms. The recommended drying time for construction substrates are also an essential element for ensuring the success and longevity of the tile installation. The specific requirements are laid down in BS 5385 parts 1 to 5. That's the codes of practice for ceramic and natural stone wall and floor tiling. On this slide we have some examples of new substrates drying times. In the case of sand cement screeds, for example, and render, these times might be reduced if OPC is substituted for rapid dry and low shrinkage cement, or a specialist proprietary pre-mixed screed or render mortar. Brickwork and block work are unlikely to meet the requirements for a surface regularity of SR1 and therefore should require a suitable treatment, i.e. overboarding with a tile backing board or a render. As with any tiling installation, the correct preparation of the background is important. The following slides talk in a little more detail about the need for smoothing and levelling compounds in a floor tiling application, waterproof protection in wet duty areas, and the effect of thermal change on large format tiles, ceramic and thin panels. Some of these are highlighted in this slide. The criteria on this slide should be considered at the design stage. When we look at commercial or industrial environments, what other stresses will the tiles be exposed to? Will there be manufacturing chemicals involved? What would be the cleaning process on these tiles? When we look at dry or wet areas, we need to identify the moisture loading and the quantities of water along with the time spent where the water is in contact. For water sensitive stone, this can be a key factor. Traffic and load. Now, what type of static and dynamic loading is to be expected? Will it be foot traffic? Will it be hard rimmed or pneumatic wheel traffic, as well as the foot traffic? Abrasion resistance. What type of damage is the traffic going to cause? Is that floor subjected to pressure washing? Is there heavy duty or medium duty, light duty area? Then, exposure to chemicals. What are those cleaning regimes? Is there any chemical usage? What's the hygiene requirements? As already discussed, smoothing and levelling compounds are becoming more important as trends for the specification of larger format ceramic tiles and panel sizes increases. A higher degree of surface flatness will assist the tiling contractor in accommodating permissible surface flatness regularities in larger format or extruded tiles within the adhesive bed. Therefore, it's important for us to remember that the area of flatness tolerance for the tile itself is greater than the fixing standard tolerance. If we have a heated mesh in cables, we should always be encapsulating those in either a thin layer of smoothing compound or a tile adhesive. As use of a smoothing unleveling compound makes this application process much easier to do and reduces the risk of heating wires becoming damaged. There are two main types of liquid applied waterproof tanking membranes compatible for use with ceramic tile installations. We have single part membranes or two component membranes. The single part membrane is usually an aqueous polymer dispersion based coating, and the two component membrane is normally a cement polymer dispersion based or based on epoxide polyurethane resins. Scrim tape and reinforcing tape and matting may be required to reinforce the membrane in areas subject to movement, so pipe penetrations, drainage outlets and channels, junctions between different bases and backgrounds, internal and external corners of walls, partitions and their junctions with any bases, columns or upstands, bridging any cracks within the base of the substrate. Flexible sheet membranes are generally applied using tile adhesives, and the type of waterproof tanking membrane chosen depends on the type of drainage system. We must check suitability with the drainage manufacturer. The history of the use of an uncoupling system beneath floor tiling dates back to the Roman era, when sand was used as an intermediary layer between the load-bearing substrate and the fixing mortar and tiling layer. In simple terms, the sand bed created both a supporting layer for the mortar bed and tiles, but also allowed independent lateral movement to occur between this and the structural base layer. In a similar way, modern uncoupling matting systems are designed to neutralise lateral stresses between the substrate and the tile covering, and thus can protect the tiles from reflective cracking. However, uncoupling mattings are not designed to accommodate vertical deflection or movement. There are options available for lower profile matting which minimises height build-up, bonded cavity matting systems and floating uncoupling matting, suitable for use in light commercial areas and for use in some problematic load-bearing surfaces. Uncoupling membranes are recommended particularly for use where underfloor heating or under tile heating is present. The use of uncoupling mattings can be found in both the TTA and the Stone Federation of Great Britain's technical documents for the installation of tiles and natural stone. Reference to uncoupling mattings can also be found in BS 5385 parts 3 and 5. Underfloor heating systems should conform and be installed to BS EN 1264-4 2009 water-based surface embedded heating and cooling systems. It should be fully commissioned prior to tiling and also after tiling. This should be done and carried out in accordance with the system supplier's manual, whether for warm water or electric cable heating. It's normally 7 days for rapid setting tile adhesive and 14 days for normal setting tile adhesive. There should be no exposed pipework and the surface should be free from cracks and damage. Uncoupling membranes are recommended for use where underfloor heating is present, and suspended timber floors containing water-fed systems are not suitable for tiling. This is due to the heating pipes precluding the installation of noggins and supports. Areas subjected to direct sunlight, such as external sunrooms, atria and conservatories, as well as areas subjected to heat sources, i.e. a screed with underfloor heating, are likely to have a variability in the temperature of the background and the tiling layer. In these areas, and especially where tiles are dark in colour, a large format tile and panel can heat up and cool down very quickly compared to the background. For larger format tiles and panels, thermal expansion and contraction is cumulative across the area of the thin panel. An example of a 3 metre long panel over a temperature range of 30 degrees C can expand by approximately 0.65 millimetres along that 3 metre length. Now, in the next two slides, we compare the coefficient of thermal expansion for different background and tile finishes. Ideally, the coefficient of thermal expansion for the background should not be too dissimilar to that of the type of the tile finish. BS 5385-3 2014 recommends that for internal floors which might be subjected to significant thermal changes, i.e. direct sunlight in an atria or underfloor heating, etc., the floor should be divided up by intermediate movement joints into bays of size no greater than 40 square metres with an edge length no greater than 8 metres. We're going to show you a couple of tables demonstrating the different thermal expansion rates of different materials. Table 1 in this slide shows the coefficient of thermal expansion for a selection of tiles and stone with heated floors. Using the coefficient of thermal expansion for concrete as a baseline, here are 3 examples of selected rigid floor finishes with varying coefficients. Group B1B porcelain tiles has a medium coefficient. Agglomerate tiles has a very high coefficient which is greater than most bases, and then slate, which has a low to medium coefficient. Looking at this table of selected common backgrounds and taking into consideration the previous table, it's possible to see that the combination of materials when exposed to thermal effects, i.e. expansion and contraction, can have a direct influence on the overall long-term success of the tiling installation. Large format tiles and panels will need to be handled with great care. The lifting and cutting process always requires at least 2 people. Transporting and installing these tiles and panels should always be undertaken using a suitable lightweight framework with suction cups, as large panels and thin tiles will be susceptible to breaking if subjected to any bending or twisting force. Always follow the tile and panel manufacturer's advice for the best way to cut them. It should be ensured that all cut edges are smoothed out using a suitable abrasive disc or diamond pad. Research has shown that the pendulum test is a reliable and accurate way of measuring slip resistance both in dry and wet conditions. For this reason, the HSE have adopted this particular test method. The guidelines in this slide relate to the potential risk of slipping occurring on a floor corresponding to the pendulum test values. In general terms, the slip potential is classed as 0 to 24, high slip potential, 25 to 35, medium slip potential, and 36 plus, low slip potential. BS 5385-1 2018 and BS 5385-2 2015 advise that where tiles have a greater than 0.1 metre squared face area and are required to be fixed above 3 metres floor level, then they should be secured by mechanical fixings. Where tiles are to be mechanically fixed, the background should be sufficiently robust to take the method of attachment. Tiles used for wall tiling externally must be porcelain. An ALA tile which is extruded has to have a water absorption of less than 0.5%, and BLB, which is dust pressed, must also have a water absorption of less than 0.5%. So this section looks at how the correct selection and specification of materials can help the process for fixing large format tiles as with any installation. It relies on identifying all of the key elements of the installation to achieve a successful outcome. The application. What is the application in which a ceramic tile or panel is to be fixed? Floor tiling installation should be carried out within a 3 to 6 mm solid bed of adhesive, ensuring that as far as possible voids are eliminated beneath the tiles. For floors, any voids within the tile adhesive will be potential points of weakness under load, thus increasing the risk of impact damage. Taking into account substrates in preparation, the consideration must of course be given to selecting the right type of substrate that is capable of receiving a rigid tile or panel finish. We can't have any vertical deflection, for example. Correct preparation is key to the success of any tiling installation. Is the substrate flat enough to allow the installer to achieve a flat tiled finish with no lipping of the tile joints? If not, we must consider specifying a smoothing compound. Looking at tile type. Now, first and foremost, we need to look at safety in use. This should take into account the floor tile slip resistance both in dry and wet conditions, the solidity of the tile finish, are the tiles fully bedded in the correct tile adhesive, and then the maintenance, as this can impact on the long-term slip resistance. The tile type, size and thickness is important and will influence the correct choice of tile adhesive and grout. So, the selection of the right materials, the fixings, adhesives and grouts, incorporating two new technologies is of course paramount in ensuring the success and longevity of any tiled installation. The selection of tile adhesives and grouts. Tile adhesive classification and standards. We have three categories of tile adhesives: cement-based, dispersion and reaction resin. Cement-based normally comes in a bag of powder and is mixed up on site. Dispersion comes in a tub which is water-based and ready mixed, ready for use. A reaction resin is normally a 2 or 3 part product with a resin and a hardener. Moving on to the classifications, we have 1, which is a normal adhesive, 2, which is an improved adhesive. This meets the requirements for additional characteristics. Then we have a lettered system. So F is a fast setting adhesive, normally cementitious only, and that achieves 0.5 newtons per millimetre squared within 6 hours. T, which is non-slip, that's normally used on walls, and then E, which is an extended open time, which is over 30 minutes. This is for cementitious and dispersion adhesives only. The first three are not tested for in accordance with the EN 12004 requirements, but are important to the end user and assist in providing an adhesive which is easy to mix and apply with a good working time. This allows for adjustment of pre-bonded tiles within a given time. BS EN 12004-2 has a test to measure for transverse deformation of tile adhesives. This gives us S1, which is deformable, and S2, which is highly deformable. Here are the codes of practice to refer to when specifying large format tiles or panels. Solid bed fixing is vital for all tiling, including fixing large format ceramic tiles and panels. The tile adhesive should be applied to the substrate and the back of the tile using a suitable notched trowel. We should not, under any circumstances, allow any sort of spot fixing of tiles. This creates voids within the tile adhesive and could cause problems further on down the line. It may be wise to specify a pourable product for floor tiling. So this slide shows a few watch points during the fixing process. Things like the flooring should not be trafficked until the bedding has stiffened enough for good adhesion to have developed. We should allow 24 hours of wrapping set adhesive before light traffic, 14 days for heavy traffic. The floor should be kept dry, clean and free from cement and plaster drop-ins. Maybe use some protective sheets or boards to cover the floor without retaining moisture. Grout classifications and standards. In this section we have cementitious and reaction resin. Cementitious is normally, again, a bag of powder, and reaction resin is normally a 2 or 3 part product which you mix together, which is either a resin, a hardener and a colour, or a resin with a hardener and colour mixed together. The cementitious grout has 2 categories, 1 which is a basic grout, 2 which is an improved or polymer modified grout. The lettering system gives us W on the cementitious side, which is reduced water absorption, and A, which is high abrasion resistance. The main difference between a cementitious grout and a reaction resin grout is that reaction resin grouts are more often waterproof. The minimum joint width for grouts will vary depending on the facial area of the tile. The minimum joint width is required to allow for the relief of any localized movement stresses. When solidly bedding thin tiles and panels into the adhesive bedding, much of that shallow joint between the thin tiles and panels could become partially filled with residual adhesive. As far as is practicable, this should be removed from the joints in order to provide adequate joint depth and volume to receive the tile grout. Failure to do so could result in unsightly grout and reduced grouting performance. This slide shows the different areas that we should allow for movement joints in wall tiling. The joints should be at least 5 mm wide, they should be through the tiles and bedding, and they should also incorporate an elastic compound such as a suitable sealant. It's worth noting at this point that if we're using an actual stone product, we should be specifying a neutral curing sealant. As with wall tiling, we should be incorporating movement joints into our floor tiling. Those movement joints should be incorporated around the perimeter, and where tiling abuts columns and curbs and steps, for example, we should allow them in doorway and thresholds, and those tiles should be divided into bay sizes no greater than 10 meters by 10 meters. On heated environments, the maximum bay size should be no bigger than 40 square meters, with an edge length not greater than 8 meters. Now, suspended floors, the bay sizes should be reduced and additional joints provided over supporting walls or beams. So, within this presentation, you will have gained an understanding on these aspects related to the installation of large format tiles. I'd now like to take you through a couple of case studies. The 2-year refurbishment of the centre included revamping shopfronts, installing new energy-efficient LED lighting systems and the installation of granite flooring throughout. The installation of water-sensitive granite in the 2-storey centre required a comprehensive specification including rapid drying white adhesives, quick drying grouts, primers and levellers. The stunning £45 million redevelopment of Tate Britain was an award-winning example of tiling and leisure. The transformation included the Millbank project, creating new spaces within the national home to 500 years of British art. Stonework specialists completed 2 packages in the Grade 2 listed building's southeastern quadrant on staircases and flooring, involving both new build and restoration work. As a major addition to the museum's former layout, a large opening through the floor of the main entrance rotunda allowed a new staircase to be inserted. A further 2,000 metres squared of flooring included a stunning geometric design that extends through the lower level of the museum, the canteen, public areas and lower rotunda. The flooring at the top of the grand staircase has a complicated fleur-de-lis pattern that echoes the design of the staircase balustrade. In addition, 500 square metres of agglomerate skirting, dados and reveals were installed. A further 800 square metres of terrazzo flooring on the principal and upper levels and the marble mosaic flooring in the entrance hall were also cleaned and repaired. Specialist product selection was key to use across the range of different tile types and to ensure ease of installation and the highest quality results of aesthetics to last a lifetime. Thank you for your time, and if you do have any questions or would like to discuss any project, please do feel free to get in touch using the information at the beginning of the presentation.